Good morning, Southwest Florida. I'm Miriam Zamorano. We are breaking into programming right now because we are just minutes away from a press conference from Lee Memorial Hospital.
Yeah, that news conference coming after a deadly mass shooting at a Fort Myers nightclub. 2 people died in the shooting. As many as 16 others were injured. We have just learned the names of the 2 people who died, both teenagers. One is 14-year-old Sean Archilles. The other is 18-year-old Stefan Strotter. Stefan is a incoming senior at Lehigh Acres, a basketball star, we are told. We'll have live coverage of that press conference as soon as it begins. But first, let's recap. This shooting happened around 12:30 at Club Blu in Fort Myers, right on Evans Avenue. Right now, we know up to 16 people were injured. And as we mentioned, 2 people died. The scene is still active as police search for a motive in this deadly mass shooting.
All right, let's take you through what else happened here. Several other scenes are connected to this shooting. Police were surrounding streets around Ortiz Avenue between Luckett Road and Ballard Road. 3 people were detained by police in connection to the shooting. Fort Myers Police and Lee County Sheriff's deputies have been on the scene since the early hours working on this case.
Police were also called out to another shooting in the 2500 block of Parkway Street. Now that's between Evans and Fowler Street. Police say a home and a car were shot at a drive-by shooting there. One person was injured.
And law enforcement was also on scene near Woodside Avenue and Marsh Avenue, this one right near Palm Beach Boulevard. Still no word if that scene is connected to the deadly shooting, but there was a heavy law enforcement presence in the area, as you can see by that video right there.
And law enforcement in Southwest Florida also called out to a vehicle fire on Residence Avenue. This is an apartment complex behind Edison Mall. No word yet on if that scene is connected to those others.
Okay, so as we await this press conference from Lee Memorial Hospital here to get an update on the victims, we do want to let you know we have heard from a number of people since the shooting this morning. Club Blu, where the shooting initially happened here, released a statement on their Facebook page, and this is what they said. "We are deeply sorry for all involved. We tried to give the teens what we thought was a safe place to have a good time, ages 12 to 17. There was armed security as well as full security inside and out. As the club was closing and parents were picking their children up, that's when all this took place. There was nothing more we could have done. As you see, it was not kids at the party that did this despicable act."
The governor also canceling his scheduled events today. He's offering any assistance for this from the state. He released a statement in part saying, while we are still learning about the details about what happened this morning, we know that some of the victims of this terrible incident were children. We will continue to pray for the victims and their families. We can also tell you that governor is on his way to Fort Myers right now. He is going to meet with law enforcement later today. That includes Sheriff Mike Scott.
That's right. And we've also talked to a lot of people early this morning. Our Malcolm Johnson was on the scene, a number of reporters all throughout Fort Myers. We talked to one man who lives nearby that club, Club Blu, there in downtown Fort Myers. He talked to us about the tragedy, even talking about Orlando and how disheartening to hear about so many mass shootings and how heartbreaking it is now to have this in our own backyard. He even went on to call these shooters cowards.
It's time for it to stop. I mean, all this killing for no reason. And I guarantee you it was about nothing. For something like this to happen, it's about nothing. When it happens like this, it's about nothing, nonsense. Something so minute, they can't even sit down and talk about it to hash things out like that. They gotta just come and shoot into a crowd of people. Y'all cowards. Those are cowards.
Now, we know from the club, their statement. We also know from witnesses at the scene that this happened after a teen event at the club. It was billed as an event for teenagers between the ages of 12 and 17. And the shooting happened, according to the club, again, right as this event was ending at about 12:30 or so. So what you had was teenagers coming out of the club, getting into cars, presumably some of them being driven by family members, their parents, taking them home after a night out at the club, and that's when this shooting started. Now we have another soundbite we have of an aunt who was, I believe, whose nephew or niece were at the club, and let's listen to what she had to say.
I would like to give condolences out to all of the families that lost and all of the families that their family members are in here also, because it's just ridiculous. It's a tragic. A lot of people were shot and a lot of people were hurt due to this.
Obviously, you can see her very upset. There are a lot of people and emotions just running high to have to go to the hospital and see this kind of tragedy. And again, we're awaiting this press conference any minute to get an update. We know earlier 16 people were brought to the hospital.
Right.
One person was brought to Cape Coral Hospital and released as well.
Yeah, among those 16, the youngest was 12 years old, only 12 years old, but the ages ranged from 12 years old to 27 years old. And again, we are talking, 2 people died in this shooting. One of those victims died when they were at the hospital.
It looks like now we're about ready for this press conference. We also have a crew there on the scene as well. Let's listen in right now and hear an update.
Garlat as in Tom, A. She is the Chief Administrative Officer for Lee Memorial Hospital. She will make a few remarks about our response to the shooting last night, and then we'll open it up for questions. And then she has other team members here that may or may not speak, depending on what your questions are, and I'll introduce them if that happens. Lisa?
Good morning. In the early mornings of today, there was a trauma related to a shooting in Fort Myers that everyone is aware of. Our trauma services, as well as our sister hospitals, are very well prepared to handle these patients. We received a total of 19 patients, of 16 of which were here at the trauma center in Fort Myers. Part of our response is 2 trauma service surgeons responded and were on scene, as well as all of our staff, EMS, and local police departments. Lee Memorial saw a total of 16 patients. Of those, 4 remain in the hospital, and 2 are in fair condition and 2 are in critical condition. As you know, we prepare for this type of event, unfortunately, on a regular basis, and hopefully never have to do that. But I can tell you that the response last night was over and above what was expected across the board for Lee County. With that, I'm going to open it to any questions that you might have.
Where were the other 3 taken?
There was, from my understanding, with the information that I have currently, one was taken to Cape, one was to Gulf Coast, which was actually seen at Lee Memorial, and then went to Gulf Coast as a follow-up. And then there's a potential third that we think may have went to Health Park, but we're waiting to confirm that. We also had 2 deceased, one that died at the scene, and then one that was pronounced dead here at Lee Memorial.
Can you speak at all to the extent of the injuries that you were seeing when they arrived?
I don't have any specific, except for the fact that 2 are in critical condition and 2 are actually in fair condition.
I don't know if anyone's here who was in the emergency room that can maybe talk about what that was like when all these people arrived.
Unfortunately, none of us were actually here at that time, but I can tell you when we get a notification, as we do with any trauma, there's a response of a whole team effort that includes surgeons, anesthesia, EMS, our security, nursing staff, all respond immediately when there's a trauma alert that is called. Knowing that we are receiving more than our usual expectations of number of patients, that's when we called in backup. So we had an original trauma surgeon who came in, started the process, while the other one was called in and kind of came in and followed up with them.
How were they transported? Were they transported by air?
I think there was a combination of both, but I don't have a confirmation on that.
With only 4 still remaining, the rest that were able to be discharged, can you talk about their injuries? I mean, I'm guessing they weren't very serious. Was it just superficial? I
don't have any detail as far as their specific injuries. Being that they were discharged, I can assume that they were non-life-threatening and non-hospital required.
Are any of the people who are here being questioned by police as to being a possible suspect in this crime?
That I cannot answer. You'd have to ask Fort Myers Police Department or Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Was the hospital on lockdown? Any security procedures once the shooting was going on, like we saw in Orlando?
No, because the shooting happened off campus and not near that, we do not go on lockdown as a trauma center.
Lisa, can you talk a little bit about a shooting like this when so many people are coming in at the same time? How many additional staff did you have to bring in? How can you talk a little bit about that process?
Sure.
With such a large number of injured?
Absolutely. We have enough staff that is actually on staff on a regular basis from a nursing perspective, as well as our ancillaries such as respiratory anesthesia. We cover that 24/7. The only additional resources that we brought in were from the surgeons.
Lisa?
Yes.
Were the 4 remaining or the deceased minors or adults?
All the ages ranged from 12 to 27. of all of the injured.
You can't tell us the age of the folks who are currently hospitalized?
We actually, it's my understanding that everything is unknown at this point in time before we confirm all of their ages. So.
Have all
I'm
of
sorry.
their families been notified, or?
Again, that's something that they're working on. I don't have confirmation that all of the families have been notified. And just a little knowledge basis, when they come in as trauma patients, they are listed as unknowns, and then they have an abbreviation. You probably know that. So we only have that detailed information when we treat them.
The two who are in critical condition, can you tell us a little bit more? What is their prognosis? Are they expected to survive? Are they fighting for their lives?
Actually, I'm going to refer to Dr. Drew McCulishek.
Drew, if you could
You have to
come.
Lisa, can you spell your last name again?
Yes, SGARLATA. You're welcome.
Name and spell, please.
I'm sorry?
Name and spell it, please.
No.
First and last name.
First name is Drew, last name is Mikulaszek. Look it up.
Please spell it.
No. Okay, Mikulaszek. As all of you know, HIPAA law significantly limits the information we can give you. I cannot give you specifics. The only thing I can tell you is the reason why they are in the surgical intensive care unit is because they have potentially life-threatening injuries.
Can you tell us the type of wounds as far as, it came from an automatic weapon or an assault rifle versus a pistol? In your
No,
experience,
that is difficult to tell simply because a lot of those wounds look similar. You can't tell whether it's from a ricochet. Distance has a lot involved. So,
well, the sum total with all the injuries you are feeling, all the wounds. Can you tell us how many wounds roughly has been seen at this hospital? 30 plus gunshot wounds?
I cannot tell you that.
Can you tell us what part of the body?
No, again, that goes into HIPAA problems.
Were you able to find any evidence in any of the people you treated, bullets, things of that sort?
Oh, there's definitely gunshot wounds. Oh, yeah, the one person had to go to the operating room.
And what kind of bullets did you find?
I'll be honest with you. What you see on TV where they have to go in and get the bullet out, that don't happen in real life. That is...
was it fragments? Was it...
Again, we don't go after the bullets. Unless they happen to fall into our hands while we're operating, that is not something that is of vital importance.
Do they need blood or things of that nature right now?
They need blood. I'm
blood
sorry?
donated? I don't know, something donated to them?
Blood donated. I'm actually glad you brought that up. Blood is a resource that is in chronic short supply, not only in Fort Myers, but throughout Florida and throughout the country. If anybody does feel a need to donate or would wish to donate blood, we would gladly accept that because we have a protocol here that's called a massive transfusion protocol, where we will use tremendous amounts of blood in an effort to save someone's life. And while that works quite well, you can deplete your stock of blood and blood products quite quickly, and that may affect somebody else's surgery.
Is it affecting their surgery right now? Do they need blood right now? Or something donated?
Again, I cannot go into specifics about their care.
Did you specifically treat any of the victims that came in?
No, I did not specifically treat.
Can you then put into context what something like this means for our community? I mean, to have so many victims, so many of them so young, can you kind of elaborate on that?
Well, to wax philosophically, we've had worse instances with blunt trauma. I don't know if you remember, a couple years ago we had a church bus that overturned, and we had something like 12, 13 victims come in. Now, I trained in Brooklyn, New York, at the height of the crack wars. I've seen worse, but for it to be in our community, I think everybody feels a little bit of shock. This is not something we're used to. We do have our own little knife and gun club that are responsible from anywhere between 8 to 15% of the injuries that we see at the trauma center. But not in this type of volume by any stretch of the imagination. I've been here for now 17 years, and this is, in terms of gunshot wound victims, this is the worst I've ever seen it.
In terms of their conditions, I mean, your expertise, is it going to be a long road to recovery? Let's say they do end up, coming out well. Is there a long road to recovery for them?
Medicine is an imperfect science, and I tell all my patients and the families there's no way to predict how you are going to do, because everybody reacts a little bit differently depending on what injuries they have. For example, somebody who has a traumatic brain injury, even though they may be all labeled the same, the time period for which it takes for them to recover from that is different and depends on a host of factors. So, even if I was allowed to say anything in terms of time for recovery, I probably couldn't, especially at this point because it's so recent. We'll probably have a better idea of how they're going to be doing within the next 3 to 4 days.
Did this bring back memories of the ZombieCon shooting?
Not so much. I mean, in terms, because I'm still not very clear in terms of the actual details of what set it off. We certainly did not see as many people injured at the ZombieCon shooting. But it is incidences like this for which we train for. We practice mass casualty incidents. We work with our EMS and our police force as well as our in-house personnel. We pray to God we never have to use it, but it's here if we need to.
Did you have to call people in? Were there already adequate teams here?
No, we did have to call people in.
How many did you call in?
From my understanding, as Lisa mentioned, I think the ancillary personnel in terms of nurses, respiratory techs, CAT scan techs, that thing, we have an adequate amount here. What we usually have, and there's always 2 trauma surgeons on call at any 24 hour period, and that's just in case the first surgeon, your primary surgeon, has to go to the operating room and somebody else comes in. So if another trauma comes in and the primary surgeon cannot get downstairs because they're up to their elbows in alligators, then your backup surgeon gets called in. We had to call in our backup surgeon. I've only been in 17 years here in 1 or 2 instances where we've had to need additional surgeons beyond that, but the 2 that came in last night were more than adequate to take care of the injured patients that they saw.
Can you or someone else on staff kind of run us through maybe a rough timeline of when the victims perhaps started coming in, or how you were notified, that kind of thing?
I cannot.
I can probably, just a little. It's my understanding that the first call that we received was around 1:30 in the morning, and then just progressively from there. So probably within the first couple hours when we were receiving the individuals that came through.
So they were coming in, you were,
Sure.
was it, so they were coming in, you didn't get the notification from, how does that work? Just so we
Depending on how they arrived, so if they came in by EMS, we get a notification. So as soon as that happens, then EMS is notified to arrive on scene, they do their triage, and then they notify us and they bring the patients to us. We call them trauma alerts. There were some, it's my understanding there were some that arrived by private vehicle. They're put in a car and arrive when they arrive. So I would imagine that it was within that same time frame given the severity of the incident.
Did you know originally, I mean, how many people you were talking about? Talk a little bit about that first call. Did they say multiple victims or?
I wasn't here, so from the information that I have received, there was notification that there was it's always an approximate number of injuries. Obviously, we don't have a detailed number until the police have done their full investigation, but off the first side, they said that multiple injuries
so
is
then
usually.
You called in that extra staff right then and there?
Yeah, and as soon as we know that there's going to be multiple traumas, we will call, and someone is going to go to the OR, we will call in that second trauma surgeon. Correct.
Were all 19 people who were hospitalized treated for gunshot wounds, or were there other kinds of injuries?
And honestly, I don't have all the detail on each of their injuries. I can tell you that not all 19 were admitted. They were seen in the emergency department and the trauma center. Most of them were discharged. So
Possibly not all gunshot wounds.
that's a possibility. I don't have that detail.
For clarification, sorry, the
Sure.
19, that does not include the individual that was deceased at the scene, is
Correct.
that accurate?
That's correct.
So how many are in the hospital now?
There are 4.
2 critical.
2 critical and 2 in fair condition.
So 20 total victims that you know of?
Correct. And that's an estimate. As you know, it changes as the investigation progresses.
Any timeline for how soon the two who are in fair condition could potentially be released?
Don't have that information. Too soon. Too soon. I wanted to just let you know that we have met with Mayor Henderson and the Assistant County Manager this morning. We are working with them, local police department and the Lee County Sheriff's Department, to make sure that someone brought up, how does this affect the community? I think it affects the community no matter. We live in a small community, so it's going to affect us no matter what happens. So we will continue to communicate with them on a regular basis. Yes.
People do want to donate blood.
Absolutely.
Where do they do that?
We welcome, they can find all of our, we will provide the information for you of all of our donor centers, but you can also find them at leememorial.org. So we would be happy to. It hasn't been planned as of yet. I think we're going to wait and see how that goes. We're going to work with the mayor and see what he would like to do and how he would like to handle that as well.
We will send out a release later today, an update by email.
Have you heard from the mayor or any city officials? Have they called to check on?
Actually, we met with them this morning, first thing this morning.
And what were some of their thoughts that you might be sharing?
Actually, it's my understanding that they are scheduling, if they haven't had it already, they're scheduling a press conferences as well. They just want to make sure that we keep the lines of communication open, especially for the community.
Do you have a number then of how many people were actually admitted to the hospital?
It's my understanding there was 4 that are admitted, just the 4 that we have.
Okay, so everyone else was
Correct.
And released?
Correct.
Okay.
You are correct.
So it's not that more were admitted and then have since been released, it was only 4?
They were discharged from the emergency departments. All right. Thank you very much.
Can you give us your title, please?
Sure. Chief Administrative Officer? Sure. I can't imagine why. It's last name is S in Sam, G as in George, A-R-L-A-T-A. Sounds like a C spelled with a G.
All right, we can hear right there the officials at Lee Memorial Hospital giving us an update there on the conditions and what they saw overnight. Just to run through a couple of the numbers here, there were 19 patients total. 16 of them were seen at the trauma center. She had mentioned that a lot of them were seen and then discharged. 4 of them at this point remain in the hospital, 2 in fair condition and 2 in critical condition.
And we heard the doctor there say that the 2 in critical condition have potentially life-threatening injuries. That surgeon also saying in his 17 years of experience here in Lee County that that's the worst example of gun violence he's ever seen. He said for it to be in our community, everybody feels a little shock. We can tell you that 2 teenagers died in this attack early this morning. One of them just 14 years old. His name is Sean Achilles. He was going to be an 8th grader in just a couple of weeks at Royal Palm Exceptional Center, and another young man, an 18-year-old, a basketball star, Stefan Stroder, was going to be a senior at Lehigh High School.
Yeah, and of course we're hearing lots of condolences and well wishes, of course, to everyone else who is also trying to find out for more information. They had even mentioned, the hospital officials, that they're still working on notifying family members of all of this. Obviously, they couldn't go into too much detail about exactly the injuries that they saw, but they did say they're always accepting blood donations, as something just to mention there, and that they should know more in the next 3 to 4 days as far as the conditions go of those people who are still in the hospital.
Obviously, a major breaking news situation that we will continue to follow as the day goes on. The governor is going to be in town. We expect to hear more from police as the investigation goes on. We will, of course, have all of that for you tonight at 6. You can also go to our website, fox4now.com.
In the meantime, we'll send you back to programming, and we'll see you back here at 6 p.m.
Are using new technology to infiltrate your alarm system. What you need to know to keep your family safe. Tonight on Fox 4 News at 10.